Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's featured Reddit stories are from MaliciousCompliance. Story 1 today is by Turkey Ninja. Hallway had lanes for students to get them to class faster. I was a teacher at a middle school in 2014 and 15 that was a Title I school, extremely low income and test scores. The state government actually removed all administration staff 2 years prior for the whole district as the student outcomes were so low. The new admin came with a micromanagement, authoritarian directive to improve test scores. One of their brightest ideas was to put lanes in the hallway to manage flow and get students to classes faster. There were 3 lanes, 2 one-ways along the wall and a middle teacher-only lane. Within about 3 days, the students were driving imaginary cars. They orderly followed one another, would let people merge in, use turn signals, and generally was pretty fun for a few days. The teachers would direct students at intersections and played along for a bit. The flow did slow down though, as students wouldn't pass each other and would have trouble merging into traffic around doorways. Another thing taking time was the students parking their imaginary vehicles outside the classroom. They would spend time backing them into spaces or have trouble parallel parking. The admin didn't like this and really started getting angry at the staff and students as so many kids were still tardy to class. They actively were handing out detentions and pretty angry at staff for playing along. This really triggered the students to start getting malicious. The students couldn't cross the middle lane, so they would have to walk down long hallways and make U-turns to see their friends or get to their lockers or classrooms. They started cruising the long hallways with their tricked-out imaginary lowriders. They would have shock noises, even. Some of the really popular kids started a bus system where they had a schedule to pick up other students and deliver them to other classes. They would hold shoulders and move as a block. Sometimes the bus broke down at an intersection and blocked traffic for everyone. Drag racing started when they held up traffic and raced down the hallways. Police would pull people over and write tickets. The most annoying part was students needing to leave the classroom to check on their cars to make sure no one stole it. Sometimes a student would come back from the bathroom and ask if anyone was driving a type of car as it was being towed. The disruptions in class started to really get out of control. Admin thought it was going to be a phase and the students would get bored. The best part about school for the students turned out to be the time in between classes. Everyone was tardy constantly. Eventually the lanes, tape, were ripped up and they shortened the passing period time by 2 minutes, so students had to rush to class and couldn't spend any time in the hallways. The cars slowly died out and the new fad was needing to use the restroom during class time because the passing period was like 3 minutes long and not enough toilets to satisfy all the students legitimately. Students were written up for needing to use the bathroom, so kids just started clogging toilets and peeing wherever. Other car things, there were flat tires, emergency sirens, car accidents, GPS problems, no gas, lost license, couldn't find keys, stole other kids' cars, repo cars, and towing cars. It actually sounds like the kids made the best of a terrible situation. Imagine that your school hallway is so narrow that you can barely fit down it, shoulder to shoulder with 2 other people. There's only enough room for 3 lanes in your school. That's really bad. And it's no wonder they're late with all that congestion. And that right there is the problem. The problem is the school itself and overcongestion. They're not going to fix that by limiting who can go into these lanes and you can't use the middle lane because you're not a teacher. That was a terrible idea. Honestly, when I was a teaching assistant, if they did that sort of thing, I would probably, in my head, be like driving a car going vroom vroom down the hall. Our next story is by QuickPair1429. You have to stay until 6 p.m. So about 10 years ago now, I worked in the FIFO lifestyle, and it was great. We would work 8 days on and get 6 days off. On the days we worked, it would be 12-hour shifts, and ours was 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. Anyway, we got this manager, and they were good at first, but over time they became more strict. One day we were leaving at 5:55 p.m., which was very common for us as we carpooled from camp to site about 5 kilometers away in our work vehicle, even with the boss. We would leave camp at 5:30 a.m. and be at work shortly after, usually commencing at 5:40 a.m. most days, if not earlier. So one day after leaving 5 minutes early, we were pulled into the office and told we had to stay until 6 p.m. moving forward. Even after we mentioned that we mostly ate at our desk instead of going to the lunchroom. Cue malicious compliance. The boss would get to the car at the normal time, 5:30 a.m., and we wouldn't get to the car until 5:50, even 5:55 a.m. at times. We stopped eating at our desks and took our 2 breaks away from work in the lunchroom. If disturbed, we'd ignore it or say we'd get to it after lunch. And we stayed till 6 p.m., even if work was completed. Some urgent tasks that were normally done while most people were on breaks stopped getting done or took longer. Sometimes the work carried over to the next day. The manager caught on about 3 weeks later and asked us why. We explained what happened. That afternoon, we were informed we could leave 5 minutes early moving forward as long as the work was done. Let's just say the manager only lasted another 6 months. Not sure if they were forced out or quit. I swear 90% of malicious compliance and petty revenge stories are a new manager who thinks they know everything and they try to change the way things have been working, and it backfires on them. Our next story is by Lush Petals. Fine, I won't touch anything in the kitchen. So my 13-year-old daughter recently got super into baking cupcakes, cookies, banana bread, you name it. But she does tend to leave a little chaos behind. Flour on the counter, spoon in the sink, oven mitts everywhere. One day after cleaning up yet another post-cookie explosion, I snapped a bit and said, "If you can't clean up properly, then just don't touch anything in the kitchen at all." She nodded. Okay. The next week I came home from work to silence. No sweet smells, no baking music from the kitchen. I figured she took it seriously. Then it hit me. The dishwasher, still full. The garbage, overflowing. The sink, piled with dishes. The groceries I asked her to unpack, still sitting in bags. I asked what was going on and she goes, "You said don't touch anything in the kitchen, remember?" So I didn't. Touché. We renegotiated the rule. Now it's, you can bake if you clean like a pro. She agreed. I got cookies. She got victory. Fair trade. I'd say you got the better end of the deal because you're also going to get sweet smells and music from the kitchen and an overall happy environment when you come home. It sounds like she also does her fair bit of chores with the dishwasher and the garbage and the dishes being piled up and the groceries not being unpacked. It's good that you guys came to terms because, yeah, that stuff all gets done and she'll clean afterwards now. Our last story today is by Substantial Desk 670. Not my lot, not my problem. This happened decades ago for a food production company where I was a quality control manager. I regularly checked the quality of the food we produced at the food production lines for 4 plants in the area. One plant I inspected was operating within tolerance and received a generally good report, but I had to note one potential hazard. The parking lot was in terrible condition, and the dust that employee vehicles kicked up as they entered and left work could enter the plant and contaminate the food production line. I gave a copy of my report to the plant operations supervisor and suggested he get it taken care of before the USDA inspector noticed it. His response, "You were here to inspect food production, not the parking lot." I am here to ensure the quality of the food product that leaves this plant. BS. And then he said the words every malicious complier thrives on. Don't tell me how to run my plant. 6 weeks later, the USDA inspector shut down the plant, citing quality of the parking lot and the heightened risk of dust entering the food production line. Who knew? But even then, there was a workaround that could have kept the plant open. Only plant operations had demanded that I don't tell them how to run their plant. Even so, I had to ask. The following month after the lot had been repaved and the inspector had finally approved the plant to be reopened, why didn't you just close down the parking lot and have the employees park on the street? Schedule the repave on a weekend, the plant could have stayed in operation. He didn't lose his job. In fact, he retired from that company, so I guess lesson learned, but he didn't talk to me again. Some people can't handle being told they're wrong, and this manager sounds like he's one of those. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a remarkable day.